Okay, let's dive right into this. You ever look at someone who's been single for a long time and just wonder why? I think our culture, it immediately jumps to conclusions. Oh, they're just unlucky, or they're too picky, or maybe they're just scared of commitment. But what if it's something else entirely? Today, we're going to look past all those stereotypes and get into the really fascinating psychology of people who actually choose to be single.
And that really brings us to the core question, doesn't it? Is being alone the exact same thing as being lonely? Well, as we're about to see, the answer for a lot of people is a huge no. This whole explainer is about taking that assumption, flipping it on its head, and really looking at what's going on inside for people who are completely comfortable in their own skin by themselves.
This slide pretty much sets the stage for our entire conversation. You've got the common view over on the left. That's the story we're always told, right? Bad luck, fear, missing out. But on the right, that's where things get interesting. That's the deeper, more psychological reality. And that right side is where we're going to live today. This idea that being single is often a very conscious choice, driven by some powerful internal patterns, and a totally different path to a fulfilled life.
So here's our roadmap, pretty straightforward. First, we'll just rethink what singlehood even means. Then, we'll get into 5 key psychological reasons for it. Why freedom is such a high priority. The power of having clarity. What our past experiences teach us. This idea of having a life that's already full. And finally, what I think is a real superpower. Truly embracing being alone.
Okay, let's kick things off with the big, central idea. This is not a story about what someone is missing. Psychology is pretty clear on this. For a lot of people, being single long-term isn't some accident or a failure. Nope, it's a deliberate way of orienting yourself to the world, one that's shaped by your personality, your deepest values, and your past experiences.
Our first deep dive is all about freedom. See, for some people, autonomy isn't just a nice to have, it is a fundamental core need. Just try to imagine having an internal world that is so rich, so self-sufficient, that independence it feels more natural, more like home than being in a constant partnership.
And the secret sauce to all of this is this concept right here, internal validation. Think about a writer who just lives for their craft. Their sense of pride, their identity, it comes from nailing a chapter or finally solving a tricky plot hole. It doesn't come from a partner patting them on the back and telling them they're great. Their validation is generated from the inside out. And what that means is they just don't need a relationship to feel whole.
So what does this person actually look like in the real world? Well, they've got this rock-solid sense of who they are. They definitely enjoy connecting with people, but they don't need that constant day-in, day-out closeness to feel secure. The source material for this actually links this to certain attachment styles that are comfortable with independence. So for them, being alone, it's not some empty void. It's their creative space. It's where they recharge.
Okay, let's move on to our second point, because this builds on that last idea. This has nothing to do with being too picky or having some kind of unrealistic fairy tale standard. It's about having profound clarity. It's about knowing yourself so well that you just know what will work for you, and more importantly, what absolutely will not work for you in the long run. This leads us to this really cool concept, value-based alignment. It's the huge difference between searching for a perfect person versus searching for a compatible one. So let's say your core value is deep, quiet, intellectual conversation. You're just not going to find long-term happiness with someone whose main joy in life is going to loud parties every weekend. You're not judging them, you're just recognizing a fundamental misalignment of what you both value in life.
And that's exactly why this kind of clarity is such a massive strength. It's a sign of really high self-awareness. It acts like a protective shield, helping you avoid the emotional exhaustion that comes from a relationship that just doesn't fit. You'd much rather wait for a partner who lines up with your core values than settle for companionship that just feels kind of empty.
Now for our third reason, and this one is all about how our past shapes our present. And listen, this isn't about being traumatized or being afraid. It's about the fact that your brain is an incredible learning machine. It uses your past experiences as data to help you make much better decisions in the future.
The key psychological tool at work here is pattern recognition. So if you've been in a relationship that left you totally drained from constant drama or, emotional inconsistency, your brain learns to spot the early warning signs. It's not about shutting down and avoiding all relationships forever. It's more like a super smart adaptive instinct that kicks in to keep you from repeating painful mistakes. Let's just walk through this. It's a pretty logical process. Step 1, you have that bad experience. Maybe a relationship that just completely burned you out. Step 2, your brain adapts.
It gets way more selective, kind of like a spam filter that gets better and better at its job. And then step 3, you subconsciously start to put your own emotional safety and your energy first. It's a totally logical protective evolution.
This brings us to a really important idea. I think for many of us, we're taught that a romantic relationship is the centerpiece of a happy life. But what if it's just one possible ingredient in a recipe that has tons of other options?
So, psychology actually gives us a great way to think about this. It's called self-determination theory, and basically it says we all have 3 core needs: autonomy, or control; competence, which is mastery over something; and purpose, which is connection and meaning. Now, the crucial part is that you can meet these needs in a million different ways. A relationship is one way for sure, but it is not the only way.
And this chart really just brings that whole idea to life. Someone might get their sense of purpose and connection from their deep friendships or from doing community work. They might feel competent and masterful through their career or a creative hobby. And when all these different slices of the pie add up, there isn't some giant hole in their life that only a romantic partner can fill. A relationship then becomes a wonderful addition, not an absolute necessity.
And that brings us to our final point, which might just be the biggest psychological game changer of all: the complete absence of fear about being alone. As we're about to see, this is the foundation that all the other reasons are built on top of.
Seriously, when you are not afraid of your own company, everything changes. Your decisions are no longer driven by this frantic need to escape loneliness. You stop choosing people for the wrong reasons, like just to have someone there. It is a genuine superpower. It lets you approach connection, if and when you decide to pursue it, from a place of authenticity and real intention.
So, if you take one thing away from all of this, let it be this. For the people we've been talking about, being single isn't about rejecting the world or pushing connection away. It's an act of self-preservation. It's about carefully, thoughtfully curating their life to protect their energy, their values, and their peace of mind.
And that leaves us with this really provocative thought from the source material. The next time you see someone who is single by choice, maybe don't assume they're missing out. Instead, just consider for a second they might actually understand something about themselves and about what a fulfilling life truly means that most people don't.
So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. After exploring all these different ways to find fulfillment, what does a truly complete life look like to you? The answer, I think, is probably a lot more diverse and a lot more personal than we often let ourselves imagine.